Welcome back to Spatchcock Nation. We have maybe the mightiest of restaurants in Central New York joining us, the beautiful and talented Pastabilities and the family that owns and runs it. So as we introduce these people, Ryland and Rachel and Karyn, they have been, and in our opinion, are basically the epicenter of the food culture here. They are one of the only restaurants to stay strong and healthy and vibrant the entire time during COVID when all these restrictions were coming down. So it's fitting that we really use them as a penultimate episode because of all they bring. So one of the reasons why we're in love with this, both my partner, my wife, actually I had a Possibilities to go salad from yesterday today for lunch just to get in the mood, you know what I mean, for research purposes. It's a restaurant that we loved. Our brain feels kinship to it because when you walk in that restaurant, it feels both exclusive and inclusive at the same time. Like I can see someone in a sexy evening gown and some guy wearing jeans and overalls from work, and they're going to vibe together because of the way it's set up. So there's that. There's the ridiculous food. My partner in the show, Alex, is obsessed with the chocolate chip cookies because they are the best in town. And if he wasn't happily married, I think that you might be having a wedding reception in the restaurant with him and one of the cookies. The meatball sandwich actually too is I think should be illegal. So I used to work in advertising agencies and we were working on a project. I'm like, here's what you guys need to do beforehand and not do. And I knew some of them are going to Possibilities for lunch. I'm like, no one's allowed to have the meatball sandwich for lunch at all because you're going to come back and be useless. You're going to be like in a food coma. They're like, what about half? I'm like, no, 0 parts. You can't even look at it. So the way that it is around there is the food is always outstanding. The vibe is super chill. The drinks are great. So we're going to just throw some questions at you. We're excited to have you here. And let's go. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So the first question, right? So we talk about the great vibe that you have, easily the best overall vibe for dinner and cocktails in Syracuse. Why is that? Like, what's the story behind it? And what does Possibilities brand mean to you guys?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And one that I think like that we all kind of have different ways of answering. The first thing that comes to mind for me is, pastas is so special and such a unique environment because it's been built and created over 38 years. And there's so many layers there. And none of it happened all at once. You know what I mean? It's just like how our interests have evolved over time. So has the restaurant, and it's all reflective of that and really tells this really like very unique and personal story. But it also is so interesting because it doesn't feel like we're nearly 40 years old at all. And people are just regularly caught off guard by that if they don't know our story, because it's like, has this very like new, fresh feeling to it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I like your guest back there. Who's that?
There's going to be 2 of them. That one is Floyd, and you'll see a bigger, thicker brother of his named Pearl. So they might make some appearances. They love the spotlight. So they were both asleep. And then all of a sudden they heard a microphone click on and there they are.
Adding into what Ryland was saying, it definitely, I have to remind myself sometimes when I'm there that, oh, yeah, we have been here this long. We never wanted in the beginning for this to feel, in the design years back in the 80s, to feel like the 80s. Like at the time, there were lots of temptations to do things very trendy. We're young. We wanted a lot of neon, and we wanted deconstructed walls, and all these things are really big and hot in the 80s. And then we realized, no, we don't want to do that at all, because we're putting a timestamp on our walls, on our structure, on what we're creating. And the idea was to just kind of keep it timeless. And I think it worked. I think when I look around, a lot of what you see, it doesn't really remind me, or hopefully anyone else, much of a particular time. And that was the goal.
Yeah, the timelessness of it, it's shocking to think about 38 years, and congrats on all that success, but it's mature and young at heart at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like Kitty Hoynes across the street from you can walk in there and it could be 1991 or it could be, 2021. I mean, there will be as many masks, I think, in 1991. But that thing is awesome. So the start of it, I loved hearing about that, Karyn. So tell us where, we know how it started and what this vibe you were going for. Where are you going now? What's the next plan in terms of possibilities and the vibe change or growth?
Well, as far as like for this past year, the COVID year, we've made a lot of technological upgrades and we've streamlined a lot of what we've been known to do. And we're working on how to revamp and how to keep some of the things that we've had to implement this past year. And when we talk about where we're going, we want to figure out how to retain all the things that we were shown worked for us this past year, things that were basically forced upon us. It's things that we might have thought about doing, but we never actually did because we were busy and things were working the way they were. But when you're forced into a year like last year, obviously we had to make a lot of changes really fast. And a lot of these changes are working for us, and something, like I said, we want to continue. Like curbside would be great if we could continue that program. A lot of people have asked me, are you going to continue that? It's such a great advantage for people to have that if they're not able to stay downtown for dinner or come downtown. So that's been a great program for us. Just, our grab and go, we want to work on that more because that was really, that was working prior to COVID, but obviously it was a bigger choice during this past year and something we want to expand upon. And I want to show more of what we are doing in the pasta making world, because that's always been in the background, mainly because of space. We show our bread making where we make it right in the window. And all of these years, right from the beginning, we've been making our own pasta, but we don't display it. So that's our next big project, is bringing that more into light so you can see what goes into that level, that production piece, which is huge. It's the base of our whole menu. So
absolutely, it's right in the name.
Yeah.
And I also some other like fun projects for the future. We want to start making different versions of our hot tomato oil. So right now we are featuring like an extra spicy version just at our bakery that we make, daily. And that's been fun. And we're trying to tinker with some other interesting flavor profiles to kind of build upon that brand and kind of add some different profiles to it. And hopefully, people can then start seeing it as not just to dip your bread in, which is totally amazing and great, but also a condiment that can be used and infused with all kinds of different dishes and things, and really kind of highlight and build upon that brand. I think is exciting for us.
Hot Tom oil is so super exciting. Actually, a couple weeks ago, we were messing around with some stuff, and we're still working on a name, but we're going to call it Angry Tom's Mussels. So we made mussels, right, with a really good super duper hoppy IPA, and we used like a quarter cup of hot tomato oil in it. And it was unbelievable. Like it did everything you wanted to do. And hot tomato oil is one of those things that I don't know. It's a problem because when I go there and I'm having dinner and there's bread in the hot tomato oil, I'm like, I'm only going to have one piece of bread because I just ordered this huge dish, and then I eat like bread. And I secretly say to the server, could we get some more bread? I think I dropped some on the floor when I dropped it in my mouth.
Yeah,
really cool.
I joke that I feel that half my bloodstream is hot tomato oil. And I do think that I am partly made of it, but I'm never tired of it. Every time we go, I'm still eating it, and I've grown up on it for 30 years. So
you're donating blood at the Red Cross. Like, you're type.
You're type hot Tom.
That's so funny.
Be positive.
Yeah.
That's funny.
When you I think about one of the things that is part of your menu sometimes is the Italian influence, but I don't think people describe you as an Italian restaurant. So like, what's the food vision? Because it's so eclectic, like the fig and the duck on this, and then you've got this crazy way to make seafood delicate, even when it's in a heavy dish, like the seafood manicotti you had during, it was a couple weeks ago, I had it, was like I'm like, okay, there's no way this is gonna be awesome. Of course it was awesome. So what is that food vision? Like, how would you describe it?
Do you want me to go for it, Mom, or we can all collaborate?
we all talk about it, and we all know that our goal is for whatever we make to be crave worthy. That's what we always ask ourselves. But our roots are in Italian, and that's obvious, but it's not all that we are. So elaborate on that, Rach. You're good at
Yeah. I think, yeah, like what my mom said, we do think about, okay, well, I want this again. Am I going to crave this after I eat it? And, you know, we, as a family, we love eating at our restaurant. So it's like, what's the kind of food that we want to eat and that we're excited by? And, you know, just kind of in our travels or in other like places that we're inspired by, how do we, you know, take the inspiration, bring it home and kind of make it our own. You know, and I think that when I try to describe it to friends, I'm like, yeah, it's Italian at its core. I mean, we make all of our own pastas and sauces and there's that foundation, but then we also kind of, you know, take inspiration from everywhere. But hopefully, you know, put our own thing on it, whatever that is. And we've also really started to like branch out and offer more vegan and vegetarian and veggie forward dishes, which has been really fun and creative. And yeah, I mean, just so
It shows.
cool.
You know, I think when you're talking about that, like different places you go and visit, it's clear all the different tastes and different regions that create this different cool, crazy fusion and blend of stuff. It's funny because actually a lot of things that I've had at Possibilities, I've then had somewhere else, not just in Syracuse, but other areas. And I've had it at Possibilities before then. So it's interesting how you're able to maybe travel somewhere and bring that back. I just think it's so cool. Which also the coolness factor is such a big deal. Like the music is always dope. There's the art that's hanging on the wall that rotates, which is also cool and gives you like a really like, I don't know, for me, sometimes it gives off the same vibe in the best of ways of being in a tattoo parlor. Like you see just so much different, like creative stuff all at once that definitely shouldn't go together. You know what I mean? Like some of the lights and the way that things are set up in there, if they were by themselves, like, wouldn't this look great with a bathroom with black urinals? You'd be like, no, that's going to be terrible. And it's absolutely just amazing. So that made us wonder about this because, and you three have different styles that work so well together. What are each of your like favorite song or music to jam to while you're cleaning up at the end of the night?
Yeah, that's a good question.
music is so big. You know, I was thinking about what it was like in the years prior to what we have now as far as music goes. I was telling one of the bartenders that we used to have this whole stack behind the bar, and we had drawers and drawers of cassette tapes and all these mixed tapes that we had made, and that was how we did it. And we were always bringing in music into the restaurant. You know, I mean, I can't even begin to say what's my favorite. It's just you know, we went through a whole Talking Heads period where that was the night's music. We've gone through a lot of funk music over the years, a lot of James Brown. You know, anything with that kind of riff to it was great end of night stuff. And you know, we just evolved, just like, but we also go back to that. So it's kind of a whole collection. The girls and I, when they were so young, I would say, who is this? Who's this playing right now? You have to know who this is because it's so important that you know who this is. Because we're going to continue this. You know, I didn't know the future of our lives would be that I would be so amazed to have them be part of this business. There was no plan on that. It just really came together. But their musical understanding has added to the whole fabric as well. So what do you guys think of at the end of the night right now?
Okay, I mean, end of the night versus something is probably something when all of the customers are gone. So that's going to probably be slightly different from what I would feature
True.
during a shift. But I will say I have been we've been playing this one station and that I love. It's Anderson Paak, who's an artist that I love. And I think that these types of songs, things that are like funk, jazz, R&B, hip hop inspired, sound really, really good in that space. And I was just thinking about one song that I recently cleaned the restaurant to, which was Anderson .Paak's Bubblin', which is such a fun song. And actually, I would play that during a shift, but I play it super loud when we're cleaning.
Love it. How about you, Rachel? What are you vibing to?
Well, I run the kitchen and prep kitchen. So it is a confluence, is that the word, of all sounds. Everyone has their own music playing, but a lot of what we listen to while we're setting up the lunch line is 90s R&B. And there's a lot of Beastie Boys happening. A lot of Tribe Called Quest, just kind of like your really classic, good 90s R&B and rap.
Dude, that's where it's at. Like scenario coming out of the background, some Biggie probably makes it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I love hearing this because it all makes sense in terms of the vibe, and the funk definitely, and James Brown. As a date place, I think, some people feel like they're a sex machine in there, right? They're gonna go this really classy date, and this night's gonna be magic because it started there. But a vibe recently that I was thinking about, like, there's a new wave of alternative music that I think is pretty dope. Like there's a song called Fire by a band Cannons, or like Heat Wave by this band Glass Animals, and it's a blend of like different vibes that have like heavy bass lines with like a really high voice, or like the Rit Momney Put Your Records On track. Like it's a chill vibe that's old school and new school at the same time. So it just reminds me of that. Like probably pretty much, you could say pretty much anything. I'm like, oh, I can see where that fits. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna be like Metallica maybe, but Metallica's cool. That's a cool mix.
Heatwave by Glass Animals quite a bit. That's funny that you mentioned that. That's
and we really worked on Karanjabin for a while, and that was really it was great because sometimes too many lyrics are a little hard on the pre-COVID jamming nights when there was just so much people talking and noises. But lately we've been able to sort of open it up a little bit more because it's more thinned out. We have more of a plan seating style right now.
I love that you put the thought into that. So I actually wanted to find out about how you're able to put such thought into your menu items. And the music thing leads into another question. You have the only way we describe it is kind of like a food imagination. When you're with one of your, you guys know this better than anybody, better than I do. When you're eating something like, oh man, this would be great with this, right? How do you guys, like, how do you recharge your imagination? Like, is it music? Like, what do you each do separately that kind of brings you back to your creative selves?
Right, let's go.
I'm a painter, as well as a manager of the restaurant. So that's huge for me. I have a studio here at my house, which is an amazing thing. And I try and spend time just, forgetting about everything else and painting for a little bit each day. And that's huge for me. But I also am like strangely really recharged by work and by talking about work and by like thinking about and creative problem solving with the three of us.
That's when you love something, when
Yeah.
you're not doing it, you need a break and you're just thinking about it. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, that's definitely our, when we come together and have dinner and we are talking about that. We're talking about, would this be on the menu? How would we do that? What if we, painted this wall that color? And we're always kind of thinking and revisioning and talking about like what it is that we love, which is food and atmosphere. So yeah, like what Ryland said, it does recharge us. But if I don't want to do any work, I will out myself as a reality TV person.
Yes.
And I am really into like Bachelor and that kind of turns my brain off. And I have that on in the background and I cook. And that is to me medicine. So
beautiful. That, you talk about the colors in there too. Because I'm dying to hear Karyn's answer to this, because about how she recharges her imagination, having been there for 38 years. the color, like the lighting there is awesome, and which to me that drives an atmosphere, right? But by itself, that restaurant, even during the day, by all rights, based on the color choices that you've made, it should be dark in there, right? But it's not. It's not dark at all, and it's not super bright, right? It's this right mix, and it's. I mean, I know it's by design, but it's one of those things where you wouldn't. It's one of those things where, you know, when you see someone that maybe, where my wife does this, because my wife is so super cool and fashionable. She'll wear things that shouldn't match, but they do, and it looks cool. And that's kind of like the vibe of your restaurant. So Karyn, what do you do to recharge your imagination?
Again, you know, prior to COVID, it was probably traveling or going outside of the area. But, you know, I get, when Rachel and Ryland and I talk, and it's about atmosphere and food, that's really what we're all about: atmosphere and food and vibe. It's everywhere in life. I mean, atmosphere, food, and vibe. I mean, it's not that I'd want to escape it. It's such a fabric of life. I mean, I'm inspired by magazines. I'm inspired by my husband, who's an awesome chef in his own right, who loves to help us put dinners together and come up with great ideas. I'm inspired by, you know, just any sort of visual thing. I'm a very visual person. I know that about myself. I'm not like a super fact retaining person. I tend to see and do and touch, and that kind of, that stays with me. Colors are a huge part of the restaurant. I know that. It is at my home too. It just is something that I like to surround myself by. Music is a huge part of my revitalization part of my life. Headphones, dancing, love that. I need more of that right now.
Hopefully you'll get more of that soon. I just got like goosebumps with those answers, because when people are passionate about what they do, it makes you want to be around them more, and that's clear in the space you are. So, and the fact that you described like the restaurant as home, or how you get recharged by working or thinking about or cooking at home for you, Rachel, those are people that love what they do, and that, to me, that makes everybody around them better. So we all have a shared love, obviously, for this great restaurant. So the next question might be a little bit tougher, but you have to create a 3-course meal using an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert from somewhere in the area, but it cannot be Pastabilities.
Right. Okay.
This is really hard because we were talking about this, and everything that we've, you know, thought about, that like our standout dishes, like I don't know if I would ever recommend that somebody eat them as a 3-course meal, because it's not.
Well, can donuts be a course? Because I love the donuts at Sweet Praxis. I mean, if we can make that like an appetizer or a dessert,
They should
or
be a food group, so definitely.
yeah,
That's cool.
it could
Yeah,
be you're up all night and you
donuts 24/7. I love it. Okay.
So that was on my list of noteworthies. You know, does it have to be 3-course? Can we just talk about our great items that we just want to eat? A 7-course meal? Can we do that? Because we love the Reuben balls at Kitty's. I mean, the Reuben balls at Kitty's were always like, that was when we were in COVID non-service months, we were ordering. It was great. Like, there was a lot of neighborhood restaurants that just came together, and we would feed each other's staff one night a week, and we just have this huge banquet spread at the end of our takeout night. And we did it with Kitty's, we did it with Dino, we did it with a pizza. And so all of those places have such a place in my heart, because we were all really banded together to get through that time. So I know that a pizza is on the list, because we just dig that whole vibe there, and their pizza has been great.
And Negroni, you gotta mention.
Yeah, when we want to get out of the restaurant, we want to just, you know, be chill and have a good dinner, then the Calabrian pizza there, and then a Negroni. What else, you guys? We had.
We were talking about one of our new favorite businesses to support is Nice Biscuit, which is a new company actually that one of our employees started with their partner, and they do a vegan biscuit delivery, and it's crazy. It's so good.
Chicky Baby.
Chicky Baby is one of their featured items that they.
I'm writing it down. Nice Biscuit.
Nice Biscuit, yeah.
biscuit. We love this other Thai restaurant that does only delivery only right now. Thai Love. Their cow soy is to die for. They have like this military style delivery thing that we just are amazed by. You tell them what time you want it, and it's there.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's crazy. I have no idea how.
No idea. Right? They're like, we'll be there at 7:40. 7:40, they are there, and it's
We're there.
amazing.
Yeah.
Super flavorful. And then we also I've recently become obsessed with this chicken fried halloumi cheese wrap at Mellow Vello. And
I love Mellovello. Yeah, tell me about that. I'm excited.
so good. I feel like first of all, we love going there. It's super cozy and feels homey, and I just, great vibe all around. It's a like curry chicken. I believe it's chicken thigh with pickled onions and some house-made aioli, and then they fry halloumi cheese, and it's all wrapped in a garlic homemade naan bread, and it's so good. And they also have really, really good chicken wings that I don't think a lot of people know about. And so we also want to highlight those because that's kind of the standard order that we get: wings, a salad, and the wraps. So that has to be included on our tour de Syracuse of food.
I love it. I love all those things. A few of those things I had to try. I've never had the nice biscuit. So I'm definitely gonna get into that. And I'm gonna try this militant delivery style, but I'm gonna come up with weird times. Like this needs to be at 7:37, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Not a second too early or too late.
They're coming from Mattydale.
Wow.
I don't know how they do it.
And it's piping hot when it gets
Yeah.
like crazy. Yeah, they must have a kitchen in the car or something.
I was gonna say they park around the corner from your house and just cook it and then just walk off with it.
Water Street bagels.
Yeah.
When we were in Montreal a number of years ago, the food scene up there was very inspirational, really inspirational. Loved it. And one of the most memorable things was the sesame bagel that they do there, and with just cream cheese. And I think they did a really good job with that at Water Street. And their sesame bagel for me brings me back to Montreal, only their style.
Yeah, they kill it. That place is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going there in the morning sometimes during the week to meet a friend of mine, and it'll be like a 30-minute wait. And you're like, how is this even possible? But during COVID, and it is because it's so good.
Yeah.
As you guys are kind of celebrities around town and food celebrities and stuff, you also have been featured on a lot of TV shows and you've had celebrities dining there. So who has been your favorite celebrity to serve in the restaurant and why?
Oh, to serve.
I didn't
What
get
is
the
happening there?
pleasure of serving Sam Smith when he came to town and dined with us, but I think that he has been a staff favorite celebrity. He was just so down to earth and really just like seemed happy to be there. And he's a person whose music I really love.
Me too.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Okay.
I mean, Guy Fieri and what he does for the restaurant, independent restaurant business is something that, I can't say enough about because, he even during COVID did the global greats. We were amazed to be a part of that whole it wasn't a reissue. It was like it was really featuring our hot tomato oil. The whole thing came out of the blue. We had no idea about it, but what he does and what he's doing for the independent restaurant industry is enormous. And when he passed through town, we were busy. We were a busy restaurant. We were definitely doing well. But what he did was really put the area on the map because he did visit a number of places in Syracuse, not just us. And I think all of us felt that it did do a lot for our business and really establish sort of this whole destination feeling for the area. And it continues. We just have this fan club from that show that I don't think will ever go away. They just keep coming.
He's a super class act from everything I've read and heard, and that commitment is just insane to do that. So I figured he might have made an appearance in this. What about you, Rachel? Anyone stand out in your mind?
I haven't really encountered that many celebrities yet. I do know, like, I have some funny stories. I used to tell people growing up, being like, Axl Rose came to Pastas, and
What?
yeah,
I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan. What do you
yeah.
know that? What?
This is before my time, Mom. You can speak.
We were cleaning up. It was late. It was like a Monday night, and one of my dishwashers was flipping out, just like, oh my God. He was flipping out, running all over the place, going, he couldn't breathe. He couldn't even say it. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, Axl Rose sitting at the booth. And there, I was like, okay, there's a guy with a cutoff jean jacket on, or, no sleeves and tons of tats, and just looking around. He was there with his manager, just having a bite to eat. I didn't even know who he was honestly at the time. But yeah, it was nobody in the restaurant. It was him, a bartender, myself, and this freaking out dishwasher. And after that, then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy was in the restaurant after
That is so awesome. And Rachel, the reason why you haven't been doing that is because while these two are out flirting and hanging out with celebrities, you're doing all the work in the back.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? They're taking credit for all the hard work you're doing.
Rachel's also new to the scene here.
I am. I recently moved back 2 years ago. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the other things too that and I'll share this story, even though my friend I won't reveal their name. We used to work together, and when we were trying to go and grab something to eat, when we didn't want to bring a huge crew with us, the code word we would use is he would say, "Do you want to go play dirty crosswords?" And what that was because of the magnets, right? That are on the wall in the booths, right? And we would and I'll still do this now as an adult. I'm 43 years old. And be like, how can I make a dirty phrase out of this, right? And someone will already beat you to it. So, what's the craziest thing you've seen in those magnets on the booths?
Oh gosh.
Oh God. I unfortunately am only thinking of really inappropriate things.
They all were.
They all were.
We would have to very quickly, and the magnet boards are not up right now because of COVID. So this hasn't been a part of my routine on the floor in a while, but we would always have to go over and like quickly glance at them and make sure that there was nothing, X-rated before we sat the next table. So there was a lot of scrambling that would have to happen on the boards throughout the night. But you know what? There were sometimes, and I was just going to do this really quickly because there was somebody who had a whole Instagram account just dedicated to the poems that they created on our magnet boards.
Oh, wow.
And there would sometimes be the most like, I don't know, just the most like unexpected, beautiful little things on there that were just like, how did this person create this out of the, 30 or so words that they had to work with here? And some people would get so into it that they'd get up out of their table and start talking to the people next door to be like, well, do you have an and? It just really brought people together in like a really, really fun way that I'm suddenly super excited to see happen again.
I know, me too.
I've seen a lot of people ask about something on the other thing while I've been in there, which makes me happy. But this is totally true. I, for a long time, thought that you guys had actually planned out a bunch of different things and were like, oh, I wonder if they could make this thing or that thing with it. Like the words were chosen by choice. And one of my friends was like, dude, they're running a business, man. They probably ordered a box of different words and magnets and then distribute them evenly. I don't think they're planning that out. I'm like, there's a method to this, because all of them can make some really great sentences and some dirty ones. It's so fun.
Yeah.
What was funny is that there was a time, it was a madness that I had for a moment when I made those things. I don't know what came over me. I was making little cigar boxes with metal tops and putting magnet kits in them, poetry kits to give to my friends. And then it just became this thing. I started making these things, and then we put them on the wall. And then they were getting dirtier and dirtier with the, creative poetry. And I was like, oh, we just have to clean it up. We're just going to get some food kit, some food poetry kits with just about food. And then it got worse because the food words were really the inspiration, for that.
So funny.
There was no cleaning it up. It was just too funny. And a lot of rip and tears, a lot of like, ooh, I just need an A, whatever. It's fun.
Although I will say at the, right kind of in the beginning of COVID, super crazy hard few months, and we were taking down all the magnets. And then one day I was walking by all the magnets, and then there was one magnet left on one of the booths, and it was hope.
Yep.
And
Oh, that was amazing.
and I was like, okay, we got this. So that's my favorite. I think all of us, yeah.
Wow, that's super inspirational.
Yep.
Serendipity.
Yeah.
One of the things I also was wondering when you were talking about your different food pair, the different places around town, and just hearing you guys being so passionate about this, I wanted to hear what you each thought about this. What is like right now your favorite like cocktail and food pairing, or beer, wine and food pairing? Like what goes together great for you right now?
You want to go, Ryan?
Yeah, you talk about your drink that you guys just made too, because that sounds amazing.
Oh, that's coming. We haven't had that out yet, but we've been experimenting with the blackberry lemonade bourbon Manhattan, which is really, really good. I can't wait for that to come on.
I can't wait for that either.
A red sangria with our bolognese. That's something I love. I love our sangrias are usually really great. Right now it's white wine based, but when they're red, they go really well with the bolognese. Some of the spicier margaritas work well with like the Southwest lasagna, the Southwest chicken lasagna and that. But I mean, I'm a classic gimlet drinker, so I go for a gimlet. Pretty much goes with everything.
Okay, how about you guys?
Geez. Okay. Yeah, I love a Negroni, and or just like a kind of more sour bourbon lemony drink. And I feel that especially at pastas, and as someone who does always eat the hot tom no matter what, that kind of like more tangy, or just on the more, I like a bitter kind of counteracts the sweetness of that. That's my favorite bite. That's the bite of the night.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome bite for sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
That sounds good.
Yeah, because I kind of want one now.
Pepperoni, like,
I was just thinking that.
and I'm just so ready for some hot tom and a Negroni.
I know.
I was also thinking about, because I was trying to say something different, but also the burrata that we're featuring right now is so freaking good. I was just thinking about the romesco and how it would probably be really nice with the Clementine 75 that we have on as a nice appetizer.
Yeah, that'll get you going. That'll get a night going for sure. That's awesome. That type of thing too. I've had people like the servers there are always passionate about what they're doing, but knowledgeable. And you can say, "Hey, I'm having this. What goes well with that?" And I've had many conversations where like, "Well, what are you feeling? Like beer or liquor?" I'm like, "I'll feel all those things right now." And they'll talk about what works well with it, which I love that, and I love the rotating choices you have. So one more question before we get into the lightning round, and this is a question I'm personally excited to hear your thoughts on it. So you've talked about this evolving culture of your restaurant, and you mentioned Guy's appearance in town, kind of making this a destination food place. And there's a true, prior to COVID and now even emerging from COVID, there's a great healthy restaurant culture. As you said, sharing, feeding other people's lines and things like that. It's a genuine community, and it's genuinely become quite competitive in terms of new tastes and new ideas and different things. You have, I mean, shrimp and grits. You go into Melville, they have a great one. Oh My Darling has a great one. You see them all the different time, and that's a dish that I love. I think I make a great one too. But if you, I mean, that's something you have to do well. So you guys are part of that, the inspiration of the whole thing, and still one of the really big, the bedrock of the foundation. Where do you see the Syracuse food community culture evolving, and how is Pastabilities going to be a part of that?
Well, I think we've been talking about this for a long time, just in like on a regional scale, where we all kind of see the food world and restaurants going. And I think that we all kind of are aware that things are kind of trending more toward a fast casual restaurant becoming more and more popular throughout the States. And I think that that's something that we're seeing a lot of here as well. that style, just like, unpretentious, good, quick food seems to be a lot of what people are looking for. And I think this would be a great place. I think Syracuse is such an amazing place to test out new ideas, because I think it's really such a great barometer for success, like, because there are just so many different types of people here. It's like, what is it? Weren't we the city that all sorts of different things used to get tested on in like the 50s, just because of how diverse a city we are? Like, I think if something works here, then, and is successful here, then I feel like, it's a pretty good test.
That's an interesting answer, and I want to hear what those two have to say, because that is crazy. The lack of pretentiousness is clear in your restaurant, and the fast casual approach. I mean, the line style, cafeteria style that you have introduced a long time ago is now in vogue, and it was never out of style when you guys were doing it, but it was a radically different thing, and you were doing that before it was cool to do it, which is pretty dope to think about. So that was an awesome answer. Rachel, Karyn, what do you guys think?
I feel though, like the past few years, like kind of similar to what Rye was saying, is that there are a lot of people that are coming back to the hometown of Syracuse. They may have worked and cooked in different cities and big time restaurants. And I think a lot of people are starting to come back to their roots. We see it with Eden and St. Urban and like all these like beautiful kind of new, smaller, more detailed like restaurants that are kind of like, growing up, we grew up in the Westcott area. We never thought that there would be this kind of beautiful, small, intimate, multi-course restaurant with like incredible wine selection. And it's just kind of, it's opening up different neighborhoods and kind of making people kind of think of Syracuse as a culinary city. And I think before, there were some restaurants that have been around forever and great, but now it's just sort of opening up to different types of experiences. And, I think part of what I love to do and with creating menus and talking about recipes with all of us is kind of like trying to reintroduce different concepts of food and kind of, bringing in different ingredients that we may not see a lot on the East Coast yet or whatnot, but it's like kind of just branching out a little bit. It's not all just, Italian American, or there's so many interesting people and flavors, and I don't know, kind of rambling here, but
No, I could listen to you ramble on about this, something you're so passionate about, and you use the word detailed. You just described that so well, like the exploratory nature and this like experiential community of food stuff. Like I could listen to you talk like that all the time. That's the reason why this place is what it is. I just loved hearing that. How about you, Karyn? Where do you think it's going, or what do you think about it?
Well, one thing I will say that is a little off topic, I guess, is that since COVID, there's been a community gathering of minds now in the restaurant industry. Like there are groups now of restaurant owners that are now talking and sharing ideas and being more supportive of one another. And it's something that in this very competitive world of restaurants, it's really great to see and be a part of. I really, really have enjoyed meeting and getting to know my neighbors and getting to know some even further restaurant owners out in Camillus and up in Fayetteville. I mean, there's this new formed unity because of what we've been through that I'm really excited about, and helping each other on certain aspects of staying healthy as a business and keeping our businesses on track. And then having that support with one another is a whole new thing. So I hope that we continue that in this community, because that'll make it that much greater for bringing new talent in and for bringing people into this community. Because if it's a supportive community, then it's even better in my mind.
I love that answer too. That spread, right? That's getting outside of the city. is awesome to see. Like a lot of great, a lot of great restaurants outside of the city itself. But you talk about the sharing of different ideas and tastes. One of the things I've always loved is I've been at multiple places and they would be serving a sandwich like, oh, this is on Possibility stretch bread. And I remember being younger before really getting it. I mean, I always like to cook and eat, but before starting to think about the branding and the business side and the marketing side of it, I always was like, wow, that's crazy that this great restaurant's gonna say, yeah, you can use our bread or whatever it is in there. And you see a lot of that happen now. Like I've had some at different restaurants, I'm like, oh, actually, we got this from these guys, or this is their beer over there. And I've seen other breweries even have beer from another place in the area, which I think is, I mean, I don't think that's as widespread around the rest of the country and the world as it is here, which makes me really happy to hear that. And you guys have been a reason behind that. So, all right, now we're going to go, we have a 5-question lightning round. And my wife was like, ask about which sauce is the best. We can't do that. My wife, by the way, eats the chicken Caesar salad probably 4 times a week. When she was working from home, she's like, I'm like, where are you going? She goes, I have to go to a meeting. I'm like, what? I thought you were working from home. And then she come back with the pastas back, but she brought bread. So that was cool. So, okay, are you ready? You each have to answer this. You get 2 choices and you got to say why.
Okay.
So first, do you prefer summertime at Possibilities or holiday season at Possibilities?
Oh my God, such a good question.
I like holiday season because I like to decorate.
Okay.
I like the vibe.
Me too.
Rachel?
Summertime, because I love sitting out front and watching the street and people, and I like the summer.
Holiday time for me too. I think that our decorations are always super, super fun. And I just think the restaurant's really cozy in the winter.
It is cozy in the winter. The summertime sitting outside is cool. And I don't know why, because it's not like, I mean, you are very inclusive, as I said, but it feels like you're a little bit of a celebrity when you're sitting outside at Possibilities having drinks or dinner. People come like, oh, hi. You're like, oh, I'm just here at Possibilities having a drink. No big deal, because you're cooler than they are that you're there. I love that vibe. Awesome answer. So the next one, because of the art, and I know that Ryland, you're an artist and that you all cherish that very much. And it's so clear with the art on the walls and the way you decorate. What do you enjoy more, seeing a really great piece of art or eating a really perfect piece of pizza that you just know is awesome?
Pizza.
You can't eat art. I mean, I love it, but you can't eat it. So.
Wow, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be all art. Like, I thought you were going to say something like, well, we make great pizza, so I can just do that at home. Awesome. Okay, so this is another one too. I'm asking you this because I've done both of these things, but I recently did one last month, and it's using your products. So you have a loaf of leftover stretch bread. I think it makes an amazing French toast. Get it ready the night before. But also recently, I had a loaf that I let dry out for a while, and I turned it into really pulverized breadcrumbs with some homemade Cajun seasoning and a little bit of garlic powder, and then did some shrimp in it. So what do you prefer leftover stretch bread with? In French toast, or like as an ingredient like breadcrumbs?
Breadcrumbs. I'm a savory girl, so yeah.
Same. I really like it in breadcrumbs. Actually, that's how we sort of came up with the breadcrumb topping on our Caesar. And the breadcrumbs are actually better than the croutons. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
I agree that they're better. Your croutons are pretty awesome too, but I do like those for sure. And the bread salad you make too is just ridiculous. How about you, Ryland?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think I'm gonna have to go with French toast though, because I hadn't had it in a couple years. My boyfriend and I made it on stretch bread the other day, and I was like, "Damn, this is good."
It is ridiculous on stretch bread, and French toast is one of those things I don't crave until once in a while. I'm like, I haven't had French toast in a while. Then you're like, why don't I eat more French toast? And then it's
Yeah.
the stretch bread is so good, the way it absorbs the vanilla and everything, and it just fries perfectly. Okay, so you talked about the different adventures that you've had that's inspired the food. So the 3 of you are not by this show, but by somebody's going to pay an all expense paid trip for a food adventure. Are you going to Tuscany or are you going to Paris?
Can we go to Vietnam?
I know, that's what I was going to say.
You were going to say this, okay.
No,
Why Vietnam? That's awesome.
I think I would want to go. I think I would Tuscany. I'm going Tuscany.
Me too. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been there. Actually, that's where hot tomato oil was inspired from. I've got to go back.
Yeah, okay, Tuscany. I don't want to be left behind.
I love that you have the tie to it. But the Vietnam thing too, by the way, we made a really great banh mi, and banh mi's are obviously awesome sandwiches. And the stretch bread too, like it's so good. I mean, all the bread, and especially the daily bread, everything is awesome there. But the stretch bread too, at one point we were throwing a little bit of a party, a lot of drinks, and a lot of people like to cook, and some chefs were there and stuff. And we were messing around. And one of the challenges we decided was you have to make something with stretch bread that the stretch bread doesn't make it better. So it was a bit of a challenge.
That's so funny.
One of the things I went with is like, I'm going to go, like I thought about like a po' boy or something, but I'm like, I'm going to go with the banh mi because look at the super salty pork belly, put some pate in there, make it to the point of the stretch bread. Because with a sandwich that's delicate like that and also tough, I was like, you're going to have to pull it. And what's going to happen is you're going to pull everything out. So we made little like sliders out of it, and it was awesome. And I was like, damn, stretch bread. It's just so good.
So funny. That's a good idea.
It's super universally, it freezes well too. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so here's the last one, right? And this involves someone that's important and close to your heart, but I think someone else that's also probably inspirational in some stuff that you've done. You have to have a casual lunch and beers with Guy Fieri or dinner and wine with Anthony Bourdain.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm going with Bourdain. I'm sorry, Fieri. You've done a lot for us, but if I could just like have a conversation with him, yeah, that's somebody I would invite to the party of my dreams.
For sure.
Definitely. I likewise, Rye, you said it perfectly. Thank you, Guy. But yeah, Anthony Bourdain, Kitchen Confidential was so important to me. And we grew up watching his show. I mean, that's what we would watch as a family. So yeah, would love to have dinner and wine with him.
well, I agree. I would love to have met Anthony Bourdain. I once stayed in a very long line waiting for him to sign my book. When I got to the table, I froze and didn't have anything good to say. And that was traumatic for me. So maybe I'd go with Guy because of that. I don't know if I could get over that. I just kind of froze and, hey, thanks. And it was so dumb. It was just.
That's so funny considering all the people that you've met, and like I would go with Guy. I think Guy's awesome. They're both awesome, but Anthony Bourdain would intimidate me a little bit. And like later in his career, like if he was watching our cooking show, later in his career, he might be okay with it, but earlier he would have been like, this is trash.
Yeah, that's how he was on the book signing thing. It was like, oh, you could tell how much he didn't want to be there. And but we waited like it was going to be some kind of moment.
Well, I feel like Guy would make you feel like it was the best lunch he's had in a long time, and you believe it because it might have been. I feel like he's got that type, but that's the type of atmosphere you guys have. So is there anything else you want to share about Possibilities before we sign off for everybody?
I just want to say that we back in this when we started, it wasn't a plan, and I just can't say enough about how you just really have to go on sometimes no plan, not too much data or collection, just sort of try to, everyone says it, go with what you love. And we really did that on this one. I have to say this was a project of just love, and we didn't have any clue where it was going or how long it was going to go in that direction. And it's just so much, it's been such a ride, and here we are so many years later, and we're still doing it. We're still feeling that vibe. And I mean, what's better than that, to just be doing this all this time and still really love what you're doing. I mean, it's just it's great. And I love that it's been passed into the generational blood of my offspring here. They both encompass such important roles there. And then for one to be so connected to the vibe of the back, and to one to be so connected to the vibe of the front, and then for them to come together, it's just remarkable. And anyway, we just did it without a plan, and I encourage everyone else to do the same.
Yeah.
No plan. I don't know if you can do that anymore, but it was easier in the 80s, maybe.
I think you could do it. I don't think that, I mean, you said these two didn't plan on being the front end and the back end of the house and making this perfect combination. But one thing is perfect is your restaurant. It's made with love. It's clear that you guys love what you do and people love being there. So for those that are watching and listening, if you have not been there, I don't know where you've been. You must not live in this area. If you haven't been there in a while, get in there because it's going to continue to fill up as restrictions are lifted. But thanks for lifting our hearts. Ladies of Possibility, thank you for being this great part of the community. And we really appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you so much.
It was great.